Gauteng chair Tom Mofokeng says former Tshwane Mayor Marunwa Makwarela was being protected by senior COPE leaders. Murunwa resigned in disgrace after an insolvency rehabilitation certificate was found to have been fake. Now Mofokeng says Willie Madisha and Dennis Bloem on a national level did not allow the vetting process to be undertaken when it came to Makwarela. Now for more reaction on what COPE had to say about Makwarela, we are joined by Dr. Harlan Cloete. He is a research fellow at the University of the Free State. Dr. Cloete, thank you very much for your time here on eNCA. Now, hearing the Gauteng provincial leaders saying that he was basically protected by those on a national level, basically saying that they did nothing wrong and they did everything that they could to make sure that he is not part of COPE, at least on a Gauteng level. So I wonder if you would be able to explain to us what could have gone wrong if leaders were being warned by their own colleagues.
No, thank you. Good afternoon to you and good afternoon to all the viewers as well. I cannot really comment on the COPE leadership, but I'm saying is that when a candidate makes himself available for public office, it is expected that the political party that the person will represent will carry out what you said, a vetting process. And so what this clearly shows is that the evidence is that the good doctor was not vetted by his political principles. And this is the net result of this. I think it is rather embarrassing on the party because it is expected from political parties to have their candidates vetted.
But also, Doc, you know, the other concern is the fact that this is, as you say, the good doctor has been in government for quite some time now, having formed part of a particular board in the city of Johannesburg before joining COPE to become speaker in the council in the city of Tshwane. And only now, last week, do we find out about this insolvency. So this whole time, he's been able to be under the radar.
Indeed, you know, and again, that's what I'm saying, people join political parties and people are often taken on the basis of their credentials, you know, but the onus still remains on political parties to vet these candidates. So what this shows, whether you're a professor or you are a doctor or an engineer, there is still the possibility that the person may not act ethically in public office. And so it is also, I think, very tempting for political parties to have people with supposed good standing and academic credentials to join that party. And sometimes that is overlooked, like we've now seen, is that the person was taken on face value based on the person's qualifications. And like you rightly said, it was that the person managed to be under the radar for a long time. It is then up to, like we've seen in so many cases in our country, it is often whistleblowers that then bring these facts to the surface and then exposes candidates. And so again, it calls, I think the lesson to be learned for all political parties is that candidates should not be taken on face value or on the academic qualifications, but that they still need to go through a stringent vetting process to ensure that the public representatives do not end up embarrassing the party.
But also, you know, looking at the fact that this has now put the city of Tshwane in a very bad light, and it's the capital, you know, of South Africa. And, you know, this whole saga, and even before that, when it came to just the mayorship of the city of Tshwane, what does it mean in terms of governance in that city, especially because this time it's an entire coalition, besides COPE, it's an entire coalition and different political parties that actually voted for him to become mayor that failed the citizens of the city of Tshwane. Am I mistaken in saying that?
Yeah. Look, coalitions, like we've often repeated on this platform, coalitions are complex, and they are, and especially if you have got such a big constituency. And so what we've seen in the city of Tshwane has been instability over the past couple of weeks, you know. But that is the pattern that we've seen in many others, like we've seen in the city of Johannesburg as well. So coalitions, I have said before, you know, we need a stable form of coalitions, because if the coalitions are not stable, it spills over to the administrative space as well. And that creates instability. And so at the end of the day, citizens suffer, service delivery suffers, the image of local government suffers, because people look at local government and says, you know, you can't govern. You know, you're not really governing in the interest of the people, but that you're only looking out for your own interests. That is unfortunate, that young people look at this and they start to lose confidence and hope. And with us having a national election next year, people lose faith in our democratic project because they are saying, people are saying, what is the use I vote? You people do in any case what you want. And so there's a lot of damage control being done to restore the confidence of local government. Local government have been in the firing line, and rightly so, because it is the sphere of government closest to the people for the last 15 years or so. And so we need stable local government for citizens to then benefit from the fruits of democracy. Right now, we are not getting the dividend for democracy. Local government, especially in the city of Tshwane, is not working. And so it is in many other municipalities where you have unstable coalitions. Coalitions per se is not a bad thing, but then we need to have it must be based on a value system and consensus and a solid program of action to deliver services to citizens and not to self.
Now, Doc, I wonder if you can help me. All of these events that you're talking about coincide with each other, right? The fact that we're going to a national government election next year. We had that big ESCOM strike last year that, leadership there started blaming on the stage 6 load shedding we experienced. Now, healthcare workers are forgetting about the oath that they took, obviously because they're angered about government reneging on promises they made when it came to salaries. And now you're finding people paying for services that they are likely not to receive because municipalities like the city of Tshwane are in disarray. So what does research show about, South Africa or South Africans possibly reaching a boiling point and possibly using this period before elections to try and get government to hear us?
Look, people, we have seen, service delivery has become almost at the order of the day where people are unhappy. I think we can really talk about South Africa in terms of what is called a perma-crisis, where we have a crisis of confidence in governance. We also have a policy crisis, but we also have an implementation crisis. We've got the best policies in this country, but we do not have the people, it seems, with a political will to implement our very progressive policies. And so research shows that we've got a crisis of leadership. The Human Science Research Council conducted a report that was released in March last year. And that report talked about the 10 problems really bedeviling local government. One of that is leadership. The other one is implementation. And the other one is skills development. And so we do have a crisis of confidence. And people are, like I'm saying, last year when we looked at the 1 November elections, we had a very low voter turnout because people are losing confidence in local government, in government being able to deliver on what it promised. For some, the long nightmare of apartheid has never ended. And so it's the political elite together with business that are really benefiting. And so over the next year or so, as we move towards the elections, the national elections, there will be a lot of convincing to be done by political parties to convince citizens that there is still value in voting.
All right.
Look, and I think next year is going to be telling because of all indications are showing that the ANC there's a possibility that the ANC may lose support on the national level, and that we will very well end up with a national coalition government.
All right, so let's see what happens next year. It's going to be an interesting few months. Thank you very much for your time, Dr. Harlan Cloete, a research fellow at the University of the Free State.